A heavy piece of news has just hit the Philadelphia Eagles' inner circle, and it explains far more than just the delay in filling the offensive coordinator position. It reveals a moment of real tension inside the franchise, an instant when the ground nearly disappeared beneath the coaching staff's feet. Because while everyone was debating who would run the offense in 2026, the Eagles were dealing with something far more delicate: the possibility of losing the mind behind one of the best defenses in the NFL. And before you assume this is just another offseason rumor, stay with me until the end, because what unfolded behind the scenes shows just how close the franchise came to a scenario that could have completely altered the team's short-term direction. Right after the wildcard round elimination, public attention focused almost entirely on the offense. Kevin Patullo was fired, the search for a new offensive coordinator dragged on, and many fans began questioning whether the organization was lost or simply moving too slowly. But what almost no one knew is that behind the curtain, the front office was dealing with a far more urgent situation. Vic Fangio, one of the greatest defensive minds in NFL history, informed the team that he was retiring. This was not posturing. It was not a leverage play. It was a real decision, communicated internally after 41 seasons dedicated to professional football. For the Eagles, it landed like a bomb. Because Fangio is not just another defensive coordinator. He is the foundation of the entire system. He is the reference point. He is the source of stability at a time when the offense is filled with uncertainty. According to people close to the situation, the franchise immediately went into emergency mode once this news surfaced. Behind the scenes, there was a full-scale effort to convince Fangio to reconsider. Long conversations, direct appeals. The message was clear. The defense needed him. The project still needed him. And the timing was simply not right for such a massive transition. For now, it worked. Fangio agreed to stay for at least one more season in 2026. But the key phrase here is for now. Nothing was signed. Nothing was guaranteed long-term. And that explains a series of moves that until then seemed strange or disconnected. During the brief window in which Fangio appeared genuinely set on walking away, the Eagles began exploring alternatives. Two names immediately stood out: Jonathan Gannon and Jim Schwartz. Bringing Gannon back would have been controversial at best. He served as the Eagles' defensive coordinator for 2 seasons and led a unit that reached the Super Bowl, but his departure left scars. The timing of his negotiations with the Arizona Cardinals before the Super Bowl following the 2022 season still bothers many fans. The investigation that resulted in a fine and a draft pick swap only reinforced the feeling that something important was lost in the margins. It is impossible to say that situation cost the Eagles a championship, but it is just as impossible to ignore that they lost that Super Bowl by the slimmest of margins. In a game decided in the final moments, any distraction, any lack of preparation, any missed detail matters. And that ghost still lingers in the minds of the fanbase. Gannon, for his part, failed to find success as a head coach. His record in Arizona was brutal, with 15 wins and 36 losses over 3 seasons. The final campaign, with just 3 wins, sealed his dismissal. That alone makes many fans recoil at the idea of his return, even in a different role. The other option was Jim Schwartz. A familiar name, experienced, someone who understands the defensive DNA of the franchise, but also someone whose track record as a head coach remains problematic. His time in Detroit still weighs heavily on his resume, and the fact that he reportedly felt slighted after being passed over for the Browns' head coaching job raised questions about fit and motivation. The uncomfortable truth is that neither option comes close to Vic Fangio's impact. Fangio is not merely a coordinator who calls plays. He develops players. He turns raw talent into functional pieces. He adjusts systems throughout the season. He knows how to hide weaknesses and amplify strengths like very few others can. His presence provides security to the roster, clarity to the front office, and identity to the team. Losing him would not simply mean replacing a name on the coaching staff. It would mean redefining the Eagles' entire defense, and that is exactly what makes this situation so unsettling. Even with Fangio agreeing to stay for now, league sources indicate the situation is still viewed as unstable. There is nothing preventing him from changing his mind again. Nothing stopping the conversation from resurfacing months from now. The franchise knows this. And the fact that his long-term commitment has not been publicly confirmed only reinforces the sense of constant alert. This helps explain why the Eagles appear so cautious on other fronts. When you are unsure about the future of your defensive cornerstone, every roster decision carries added weight. Contracts, extensions, draft priorities, everything is evaluated with an alternate scenario in mind. And here is a point that rarely gets discussed openly: Fangio's direct influence on the development of the defense's youngest players. Linebackers, safeties, and cornerbacks who are still far from their peak benefit enormously from a stable system, a clear defensive language, and weekly adjustments that maximize their chances of success. Fangio's departure would not just affect the playbook, but the entire developmental process of those players. For a franchise that heavily invests in young talent, that could mean years of quiet regression before stability is restored. That is why the scare was so significant. The defense was, without exaggeration, what kept the Eagles alive through large stretches of last season. While the offense sputtered, the defense held games together, created opportunities, and kept the team competitive. Tampering with that is like pulling the wrong piece from a house of cards. So yes, the scare was real. The reaction was immediate, and the Eagles found themselves racing against the clock to avoid a silent collapse that most fans never even realized was looming. Now, with Fangio still in the building, things appear calmer on the surface, but the sense of fragility remains. Because when a legend reaches the point of announcing retirement, even if he walks it back, something has already shifted. The conversation has happened, the possibility has been entertained, and the clock, in a way, has started ticking, which leaves an uncomfortable question hanging in the air. Are the Eagles truly prepared for a post-Fangio era? Or are they simply delaying an inevitable transition? More importantly, if Fangio were to step away for good, could this defense maintain the same level? Or would we be looking at a change that snaps the spine of the team? These are the kinds of silent decisions, far from the spotlight, that often define the fate of an entire season, sometimes even an entire era. And now, the question is yours to answer as a fan. If Vic Fangio walks away tomorrow, do you trust that the Eagles' defense would survive the change, or would that be the beginning of a much bigger problem than most people realize? That conversation is only just beginning in Philadelphia.